Hey, everybody. Welcome to the replay. If you're watching the replay, I want to talk today about what I see as a paradox in the whole realm of eating healthy because it feels so hard, but there's another side too. So, hey, everybody. I'm Ricki Heller from rickiheller.com, and I help women on restricted diets learn to love their food again so they can lose their symptoms and they can live life fully without feeling deprived and know that they can stick with it for the rest of their lives. So, when you first have to switch to healthy eating, and sometimes even when you are still eating healthy, so you might have been doing this for a while and it feels heavy or it feels difficult, like you're having trouble sticking with your eating, you may think about like, this is so hard. Why is this so hard? And there must be an easier way. And the truth is, it feels hard because it's true. It's not your fault that it's so difficult. You are actually being ruled by, to some extent, just natural brain chemistry and the fact that so many of these foods are addictive. And we've learned this, and we feel like on some level we can sort of give ourselves a pass. And that's absolutely true. If you think about sugar, sugar has been shown to be more addictive than heroin or cocaine. It activates the same centers in the brain. And the fact is, we have food scientists, they're food scientists, like not chefs and not recipe developers, but scientists, because that's how they create these recipes or these foods to be as, I'm going to say, addictive as possible. Sugar, fat, salt, they look at the different ratios, even just in terms of flavors. How long does the flavor stay on the tongue? How long does the crunch stay in the mouth? All these different factors to make the food as appealing as possible. So we will be drawn back to it over and over and over. And of course, because our brains are built the way they are, this works and we are drawn back to it over and over. And on some level, we have nothing to do with that. So we're not even at fault if we get sucked into these foods that we feel we can't give up. That is one real truth. On the other hand, you have a whole other set of food experts saying, this is your responsibility, right? You're the person who puts the food in your mouth, and you have to be the person who determines how you're going to change your eating habits. And I think there's truth to that as well. So I always think of someone I know who is now in her 60s. And whenever the topic comes up of when her parents had a second child, she was a firstborn, her parents had a second child, and one day she walked into her bedroom and there was a crib. She'd been sleeping in the crib. She was 3 years old when they had the second kid. She'd been sleeping in the crib, and one day she walked in, there was a little bed in the room and a crib, and her sister was in the crib. And her parents didn't give her any warning. They didn't prepare her. They just one day brought home a baby. Well, obviously they probably told her that her mom was pregnant and she was going to have a sister coming, but she didn't know that when this was going to happen, and her bed was taken away from her as a 3 year old. Think about how traumatic that is. But the fact is, my friend is still talking about this at age 65. And so you've got to wonder, at what point do you say, yes, that was traumatizing. Yes, that was a horrible thing the parents did. Of course, they should have tried to prepare this poor little 3 year old that she was going to lose her crib. But now, as a 65-year-old, you have to take the reins and be responsible for your own life. And so there's real truth to that when it comes to eating too. And I see this as a paradox, right? Because we're getting these mixed messages. On the one hand, we're told it's not your fault. You've been dragged into eating this way, and you really can't be held responsible. On the other hand, we're being told you're responsible. And so here's how I look at it. They're both true. And it's very much like the difference between the 3 year old and the 65-year-old. Yes, we may be sucked into eating a certain way, even without our knowledge. And because of the way our brain is wired and it taps into the addiction center of the brain, yes, we may even be addicted to these junk foods. But the fact is, as fully thinking, functioning adults, we then do need to take the responsibility for, okay, how am I going to extricate myself from this addiction? How am I going to remove myself from the draw of the sugar, the fat, the salt? Because the fact is, if you don't, your health is going to be compromised, your life is going to be shortened, and you're probably going to end up with chronic illnesses and symptoms, many of which you might be dealing with already, that are not only never going to go away, they're just going to get worse as we get older. I mean, this is the trajectory for most of us. That's just the harsh reality. So we need to find a way to change the way we react to those foods, which are so addictive. And we need to find a way to remove ourselves from that pattern and that habit. And that is something that starts with a very first step of taking that responsibility, acknowledging that there's nobody else who can do this for me except for me, right? I am the one who puts the food in my mouth. So if I overeat because I'm stressed, or if I overeat because I just feel I deserve it, or if I overeat because I'm addicted to that food, I'm still the one who's going to pay the consequences. So no one is going to care as much about your final outcome in your life as you are, right? And that's where we need to find the first thing we can do to break that pattern, break those habits, and start setting down new habits and new behaviors and new thought patterns in our minds. And once you do that, you take that first tiny step. Once you decide, I'm the one who's going to do this, I'm the one who has to take action for this, then everything else after that is easier because you know that you are in control. And that is a great feeling, being in control of your own food and ultimately being in control of your own life. So I would challenge you really to think about what is one thing you can do today to start to change those eating habits, even if next time you feel drawn to foods that you don't want to eat, to stop yourself and ask, what is something I can do differently so that I don't perpetuate this habit, so I don't perpetuate this addiction, so I put a stop to it and start moving in a different direction. And you'll be surprised how just that awareness can make all the difference for you. This is what I do with my clients over time. We start tiny, and it is really amazing the ultimate outcome of how much small changes can affect you over time, because there's a ripple effect where they start to affect everything in your life. All right, I hope that's helpful. If it was, I hope you will subscribe to my weekly email newsletter. It comes out on Sundays at 8 in the morning, and every week I share little tidbits around healthy eating, sticking with it, plus recipes and links to videos like this one. And you can just go to rickiheller.com/subscribe to get on the list. I hope to see you there. Please do let me know in the comments if this was useful for you, what you think. And what are you going to do today to make a change in the rest of your life? All right, everybody, have a great rest of your day and have a great rest of your week.